Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Soul Goals. My name is Dawn. So pumped to have this guest with us today. His name is Jonathan Curran. He is hailing all the way from the other side of the country, from where I'm at, San Diego, currently, if we're being exact. But Jonathan started in Arizona, went to St. Mary's College of California to play golf there, right? Yeah. So Jonathan recently graduated from St. Mary's after a wonderful 5 years of playing there and attending that school. Great stories. I can't wait to hear more about that school and what you have to say about it. And is now pursuing his doctorate, guys, as a young 22-year-old doctorate at University of San Diego. And I say that because I'm super proud of you. Like, that's a big deal. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And so the cool thing about Jonathan, beyond all of that, because all of that is very cool. And if you look at, you know me, I geek out when I talk to a student athlete because it's such a hard path to get to where they are. A very, very small percentage of people go from high school to play collegiate sports at any of the levels, Division 1, 2, 3, NAIA, all the stuff. So to be where you are and to have done what you've done athletically and academically, dual at the same time, is a big deal for sure. But above and beyond that, I started following Jonathan online with a platform that he created called Stories by Student Athletes. I just want to say that this is one of the best things ever because what he does is he has student athletes come on, share their story of their mental health issues that they've gone through, challenges that they have faced within their sport, whether it's through injury, illness, performance, trauma from previous. There's so many different gamuts that lead into that mental capacity that helps feed into our sport. And I love too, you just did a guest spot on another podcast. And one of the things that you were talking about was like, physical pain as athletes is really easy for athletes to push through. It's that emotional pain that's like the ringer. Like that's the hard part. And what Jonathan is doing now is advocating for those mental health aspects and helping to bring those stories forward for people to feel more transparent, to be more authentic, and to create really connection in the community so that we can feel that support. We feel like we have that ability to step forward and ask for the assistance that we need. And I really think as a male athlete, that's super needed too. And I love that you are coming at it from that angle as well. So without further ado, my friends, let's welcome Jonathan Curran to the show. So glad you're here.
Thank you so much, Don, for having me, and really appreciate all that your platform is doing as well. Right. More than anything, we're a community. We're a community
Yes.
gathered in mental health awareness and advocacy and sharing our stories. And it's amazing to see all the people, all the relationships that this community kind of brings forward. So really happy to be here today.
Oh, I'm so glad you're here. So I want to start first of all with you're a golfer. Okay.
Yes.
Why golf? How golf? What got you started in that sport?
Yeah. So I my golf story is unique where a lot of golfers start at age 2, 3, or 4. They've been playing their entire life, right? That is not me. So
Okay.
I played every once in a while with my dad. My dad is an avid golfer. He plays whenever he can. He's a golf nut. He loves the
Okay.
golf swing. He's got a golf studio in the garage. Like he's got it all.
Oh, love
So
it.
he loves golf. But I played baseball my entire kind of childhood, junior. I wanted to be in the MLB, right?
Yeah.
I really am a baseball player through and through. Like even now, I still say like I love baseball more than I love golf. Um,
What?
I consider myself a baseball player who just plays golf. That's kind of how I approach it.
Oh,
But I just kind of got injured here and there,
mhm.
and I'm a really big competitor, and I have a lot of personal accountability. So I loved being on a team and playing a team sport, but I hated losing games that kind of
Yeah.
were out of my control. So what did I decide to do? I played probably the most personal accountable sport there is in golf. Um,
Sure. Yes.
so I transitioned to golf my like freshman year of high school. Um, to give you insight, I was so bad I didn't even make the freshman golf team, and everyone makes the freshman golf team.
Oh,
Um,
no.
but I really wasn't that good, right? But
Okay.
I had that internal drive, that determination where it was every single day after school, I'd get a stack on the way to the course. I'd be there till sundown, pretty much every single day, me and one other friend. And it got to a point where steady improvement towards my senior year, then in high school, I ended up finishing sixth in state, won a big national tournament, which kind of opened the door for me recruitment wise,
Yeah.
and ended up at St. Mary's there. So St. Mary's, small Division I school in Northern California, kind of a powerhouse basketball program, if
Yes.
that's how you recognize them. Yep,
Yes.
that's the St. Mary's. But I absolutely love it now. I love golf. I love the relatability to life that comes
Mhm.
with it, and how some of the lessons are very similar.
Right.
What you put in is what you get out, right? No one's going to hold you more accountable than yourself.
Yeah.
Um, some of those type of things, but I love being able to travel the world playing the sport that I love, to be able to play it for a long time now, post college career, and it's been an incredible journey so far.
Yeah, and you probably still really enjoy it too because you
I
started
do,
so late. Like,
I
that's a
do,
great
yeah,
goal to have.
absolutely. Burnout is real, and
Mm,
especially in a sport that you've played your whole life, and a sport that's as mentally challenging as golf, right? Because
yeah.
it is so individual. You're out there. There are days where you're out there by yourself competing for 12 hours straight, right?
Yeah.
And that is a mental grind unlike anything else. So I really credit my parents, to be honest, in that I was developed as an athlete more than
Mhm.
a specific sport player.
Oh, I love
Um,
that.
and that's how I approach golf now, right? That's how I approach training. That's how I approach gym work, right? I train to be an athlete, not just a golf player.
Oh,
And that it's really helped me to continue to have that joy for the sport, to continue to love it, and to want to play it afterwards. So
yeah. Oh, Jonathan, that's great. Train as an athlete and not just a specific. Like, I love that whole adage because it just encompasses so many different facets, which just makes it natural that this mental training, if you will, kind of found you. You're open to that kind of stuff. And I know you're also, you were talking to, you're also a very huge faith-based individual. So I'll know a lot of God moments, and someone, I guess maybe about a month ago, talked about God winks that happen.
mm,
I mean, I there's no denying the fact that you had to put in that work, right? From a freshman when you were like, I didn't make the team at the freshman high school level, right? But you had opportunities and you knew that if I work hard enough at this gift of athleticism and this competitiveness that I have, this drive that I was have been instilled has been instilled in me, yeah, I can find something that's gonna drive me and it's gonna make it work. So you rose to those opportunities. So I love it.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So as a recent graduate, you spent what 5 years balancing your sport and your academics. Tell me a little bit about how challenging that could have been for you, or what was for you.
It's a grind.
Mm,
Absolutely. There were days. So my freshman year, right? I kind of joke with some of my friends now, who lived in the same freshman dorm hall. I didn't know anyone my freshman year,
okay.
because we would golf is a sport, right? As we said, we're out there till sundown. So
Yeah.
we'd have class in the morning, right? We're literally at the course from like 12 to 8 then. Um, you come home, you grab some food, you get a quick shower in, and then you'd study till midnight, and then
Yeah.
you'd wake up and do it again the next day. There's no real time for social aspects there.
Mhm.
And balance is something that's super difficult, especially if you are trying to catch up, right? In terms
Right.
of, I didn't start playing golf right till 12, 13. Some of my teammates have been playing since 3. I'm trying to pick up 10 years in a small little gap.
Yeah.
So I have to, right? It's kind of simple math. You got to outwork them. So
Yes.
balance wasn't really a priority for me my first few years, and that led to a couple of a couple of mental issues there come later in my college career.
Mhm.
But balance is super difficult for any student athlete who's trying to be phenomenal in
Mhm.
every aspect of their life, right?
Yeah.
Odds are, if you get to that level of Division I, Division II, Division III athletics, right, you know what it takes to be great. But it's really hard to do that consistently in all aspects, right? And
Yes.
balance is just something that is super difficult, and it takes some realization that everything is important, right? It
Yeah.
doesn't matter what you just do on the competition field. Like, you have to set yourself up to do that well. And sometimes that means spending an hour off the golf course to make sure my stones are in line school wise, or to make sure I
Right.
get an extra hour of sleep, right?
Right.
Everything works together in that sense. And it took me a while to realize that. But as I am now starting to prioritize balance more and more, it's helped me feel so much healthier.
Right. And you have to have those experiences of the imbalance to understand what it is that you need to rebalance and kind of recalibrate too. So tell me a little bit about, because you said those early years of those imbalances and some of those things that you couldn't quite get a grasp on contributed to some stuff moving forward for you in your career at the collegiate level with your golf. Tell me a little bit about how it was that you got to a point where you said, something's not right. I need to take care of this. This is mentally, I'm not plugged in, or I'm feeling really, really off, or was it anxiety? Was it depression? What was the big flashing yellow light for you that said, hey, I'm trying to get your attention here?
I really, yeah, my story, I really kind of had like one of those build up to a breakdown moment.
Mhm.
So as we've kind of talked about, right, I was 120% in on golf. And
Yeah.
because I was working so hard, subconsciously, I started to relate my identity to my athletic performance, right?
Yeah.
Because, okay, I'm spending so much time doing this. I care so much about it. It's a huge part of who I was that it became all of who I was, right?
Mhm.
So when I was playing well, all things were great
Right.
because, all right, I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm competing how I'm supposed to be competing. Like, I was playing the best golf of my career. Like, of course, everything's going to be okay. But then the flip side, right? It's not always going to be perfect all the time.
Mhm.
It got to a point where it was like, okay, this is all that I'm devoting myself to, right? And I
Mhm.
wasn't playing very good. So I remember it very clearly. It was like, okay, this is who I am, and like I'm failing at that.
Yeah.
So I became that failure essentially, and it was weighing on me really, really hard. I am typically very even keeled with my emotions. I'm never too up, never too down, but very kind of intense, like kind
Yeah.
of on an internal level. That's where I get that kind of competitor, kind of killer instinct.
Yeah.
Um, but I started to become very emotional on the golf course, right? I mean, I'm never one to really let my words get away from me, or that like my actions get away from me. And I remember that semester, it was my fourth year. I really was not having fun on the golf
Mm.
course. I was kind of going out there, just wasn't in a really good headspace, which made it
Mhm.
impossible to play good golf. But there was one morning clearly where I was just sitting in my car and I was like so upset with everything that was going on. I sat like I just like kind of broke down. I just lost it. Like, I was
Yeah.
throwing water bottles in my car. I was like punching the walls and like punching the steering wheel. Like, I'm sitting in the driveway of my house and
Yeah.
just absolutely losing it. Just like one of those rock bottom moments. Like, okay, I something's obviously wrong.
Sure.
And I'm really grateful that I have a great support system. That
Mhm.
is a huge part of my story now, where my parents flew out that day. Um, I actually like I left school and left
Mhm.
golf for a week and a half to go back home
Yeah.
to find myself a
Mhm.
little bit,
Yeah.
to kind of just I needed some time away. But that was really my mental health story, because I had never really prioritized that. Like, I had never prioritized my mental state. I was very cookie cutter stereotypical student athlete, right? We'd sit down and have like, hey, your mental health is important at the beginning of every single year.
Yeah.
But in the back of my mind, I'm like, I'm not gonna need that. Like,
It's yeah, it's not me.
doesn't relate to me. Like, I'm
Yeah.
gonna be the one who that it doesn't matter. I got humbled very quickly
Mhm.
from that.
Yeah.
But a huge part of that now is me giving back. And we talked about the podcast now and being more vulnerable, especially when it comes to men's mental health.
Mhm.
Um, it's something that we strive for. But that's really my mental health story, where it kind of took a breakdown for me to build back up. But it
Right.
doesn't have to be that way, right? You don't have to wait for the world to fall apart to just start building it back up in that sense.
Right. Do you feel that that's what usually happens with people, is they hit
I
that
do.
bottom?
I do. I think especially with student athletes is that we fake it to ourselves and be like, okay, I still have it under control. Right? Student athletes are kind of we're control freaks when it comes down to it. We
Yeah.
control what we control and we control it well.
Yeah.
But when but when we become the thing that's out of control, that becomes super difficult, right?
Yes,
Because
yes,
it's
yes.
like I can control how I play on the golf course, but if I can't control myself
That
outside
inner.
of it,
Mhm.
correct. It's
Mhm.
like that's when okay, nothing else really matters. You got to take some time to really
Yeah.
get yourself in line there.
Yeah. How important was that week and a half or so that you took off and you went home?
It was crucial. It was one of the most important times in my life for sure. I think kind of God works in that isolation. Um,
Mhm.
one of the things that I love to think about, one of the things that I heard once that really kind of resonated with me is like, don't confuse like a season of loneliness for a season of separation,
Okay.
where sometimes you just need to be separated from the noise of the world so that you can kind of get fine tuned in with God's voice.
Yeah.
And I needed to step away from the environment of school, of all the responsibilities of all the golf
Mhm.
to get acutely back in with myself and with God. So that time back at home was super important for me. I think I spoke to my coach probably twice. I spoke to a couple of roommates a couple of times. Otherwise, no one else knew where I was, right? I mean, no
No.
one, like, I didn't tell any of my teammates I was going home. I just told my coach and I just told my one really close teammate who I
Yeah.
live with and kind of like my best friend now. Like, there were only, there were probably less than five people who knew where I was.
Yeah.
But it was exactly what I needed because I came back rejuvenated, refreshed. It's not like I just solved all of my problems in a week and a half. By no means that's what happened.
No, 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 no.
Uh, but my willingness to actually address them
Yeah.
is what increased, and to
Yeah.
be able to go back to school, that's what was super important.
Yeah, and your willingness to understand what was going on with you
Yeah,
and to know what those triggers look like probably, and to know how to handle it when it came up, like getting those tools and getting I really love that the isolation versus the separation, that comment that you made a little bit ago, because I think those moments are pretty crucial to us to be able to go inward and go, this is important. This is what I'm hearing, and to push the noise away so that you really can get crystal clear. And then as a faith-based person that you are, do you feel that your faith grew through that process, or do you feel like it was always there, but it just tell me a little bit about how that worked within that process for you?
yeah, totally. It was a huge moment for my faith. It's something that completely leveled me up for sure, and that um, now I'm a firm believer in like the pain that we go through becomes the platform that we share upon, and
Yeah.
that's a huge part of the podcast, right? But um, I mean, as cliche as it sounds, like we grow through what we go through, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Um, but my faith was 100% more solid, right? And that my world felt like it was falling apart, but that's where I really found God, and
Mhm.
that's where I needed to take my hands off of it, right? To completely let go, to completely surrender.
Yeah.
And then it's been God's transformation through me. And everything that I do now is an act of service,
Yeah.
right? Everything that I go into, there's always prayer before, right? It's God, let it be your will done through me.
Yeah.
Um, everything along those lines. So um, that time was one of the most instrumental for my personal faith for sure.
Yeah. Tell me about when you returned to St. Mary's after that time off. And obviously there's a relief there, but was there still an anticipation stepping back into that noise, if you will?
Yeah, it was difficult. It was difficult to sit down with my coach, with my dad, and say, okay, like there's some stuff going on, right?
Yeah.
It was difficult to sit down with my academic advisor, someone who saw me the first day of school, right? Who has seen my transformation, who's seen my personal growth in those 4 years, and to talk about mental health resources, right? Those conversations were difficult,
Yeah.
but they were necessary,
Yeah.
right? And that's just some of the growing pains that you have to do, right?
Right.
But as I talked about, like I'm super blessed and grateful to have had such a great support system where when
Mhm.
I did go back to school, I was able to go on my own pace a little bit
Mhm.
with golf, where I didn't get thrown back into the gauntlet right away. It was kind of on my own accord.
Okay.
But I got plugged in with a therapist, which was game changing for me. Our relationship has been so strong that I'm I'm continuing on with him after my athletic career. Like I
Perfect.
still talk to him, even though it's not through the athletic department anymore. He's been one of the most instrumental pieces to who I am and who makes up my team now, kind of my close circle.
Yeah.
Um, so going back to St. Mary's, it was definitely difficult because then you always get those questions like, where have you been? How
Yeah.
are you doing? Not that those questions are important to ask, but there's always that little bit of like sympathy behind them. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, we have to like take it easy on them a little bit. And I'm like, don't do that. Like, don't
That's not what I'm asking. Yeah, I'm not
100%.
asking for
No,
that. It's it that my emotions and my mental health challenges are my responsibility, and I'm doing
100%.
what I can do, and all I need you to do is just stand with me. Yeah, just be a part, and I think that's probably hard for a lot of people that are witnesses to people, especially that they're close with, that go into, trying to support and and overdoing it or not knowing what to say, so not saying anything, and then that creates a whole other stigma that the person that is suffering can walk away with going, "Oh my gosh, maybe I'm too much. Maybe I didn't do this. Maybe I should have been more of this." All of the things. I want to go back to the stigma of mental health for males because
Mhm.
you talked about the therapist being a big part of your team, right?
Yeah.
And I love that because for me, that's super vulnerable for you to say.
Mhm.
That's very honest and but it's very true and it's very, very relatable for a lot of people that need that and that hopefully can find that and be okay with accepting help as a male athlete, as a male in general when you need that help. You don't have to be strong all the time, you know?
Yeah. And I think kind of that definition of strength is one of the things that leads to the stigma. The fact that a lot of males just in general think that strength is manning up, not speaking up, any
Yeah.
of those type of things, where really the opposite is true. Um, a huge part of strength is vulnerability. And if you're able to admit, not only to yourself, but to other people, like, yes, maybe I'm not okay right now. Maybe I'm going through a lot right now. Maybe I've failed in the past or I don't have it all together. But the strength lies in your commitment to become better, right?
Yeah.
Your commitment to speak up about it, your commitment to be a role model for others to follow. Um, men's mental health is definitely getting better. Like, I want to
Okay.
say that. I do believe that. Um, just in seeing how older generations interact with these kind of conversations and all of those type of things. But when you look at the numbers, right, the recent survey that kind of came out this past semester, kind of devastating in terms of student athlete mental health.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, 77% of student athlete suicides are male, right?
Mm.
And when you hear that number, and obviously there's something specific to men and
Right.
male mental health when it comes to suicide and everything along those lines.
Mhm.
Um, but it's something that we just need to continue talking about and kind of destigmatizing that. I'm a huge proponent for therapy. Like
Yeah.
therapy, it's not for people who are depressed, right? It's for people who just want to become better. I
Yeah.
don't I don't really talk about depression with my therapist ever. It's
Okay.
something that maybe came up the first couple of sessions and um I mean obviously that just had to happen in that kind of time and manner, but my therapist is more of an accountability partner for me now.
Yeah.
where he holds me accountable to the person that we have created myself to be,
Yeah.
right? The best version of myself. He knows, he understands, he knows who I'm working towards. He knows what I want to accomplish. I check in with him
Yeah.
every 2 weeks now. It's not like, oh my gosh, I go to therapy because I'm depressed. Like that's not it at all. Like that was never really it, to be honest.
Yeah.
I just needed someone to talk to,
Yeah.
right? And for men especially, we have to get to a point where we all realize like it's okay if you have to talk to someone. Like it's normal if you have to talk to someone. It's healthy. And that's when hopefully some of our statistics get better per se, but we can really start to normalize therapy and just men's mental health in general.
Yeah, absolutely. A mic drop moment right there, Jonathan. Totally. Yeah. And I kind of want to go back to what the path that you're on and what you are working towards, this mental health advocacy that you're embarking upon, and the path that you're taking through your PhD. As before we hit the record, that you were talking about, a lot of that didn't develop for you as a path for you until just recently. So I think about like a college student, and like my older daughter will tell you, as a sophomore, her athletic academic advisor is like, we have to start fine tuning and figuring out what you want to do, you
Yeah.
know. So like things can change, and life changes, and you have to follow that inner guide, and that inner guide is that God voice, that clearing out the mechanism and clearing out the noise so that you can actually hear what it is. And I love what you're doing with everything that you do is an act of service, and you go into it with this idea and this prayerfulness before you do it, about let me be a conduit for this. Help me do the right thing for those that I'm assisting, and be the person that I can be. Tell me a little bit about how you fell into this path, outside of just your experience. What was it that said, okay, turn the car to the right? This is the direction I need to be going.
Yeah, I think for me, honestly, the most personal work that I do now is just to remain in a spot where I'm uncluttered so I can hear God's voice,
Yeah.
right? That's really the hardest part when it comes to kind of discerning, okay, is this something that I want to do, or is this something that God wants me to do? Right?
Yeah.
That's a really hard discernment. And like, how do you do that? And it really comes into the internal work that no one else sees, right? The journaling, the meditation, whatever it may be, the prayer time. That's a huge part of all this. And I think that's really where God kind of planted that seed for me. My
Mhm.
dream was to always play professionally. Um, I
Okay.
wanted to, I wanted to be the number one player in the world. Right. I'm the type of guy where if I do it, I'm going to do it to be the best. Right. I
Yeah.
don't see a point in doing it otherwise. Um, so when I realized that that may not necessarily be the path that I wanted, um, and I think I came to the realization because other things were piquing my interest.
Ah.
That was a huge part in helping me kind of realize, okay, maybe there's more than just golf for me.
Yeah.
Um, I don't really remember how the PhD in leadership came up, to be honest with you. I don't remember what I typed into Google. I don't remember well, how it came up. Uh, Funny enough, so USD was my dream school to go to undergrad to.
Okay.
It's where I wanted to play golf there. That's where I wanted to go. I got into the school. I just it didn't work out golf wise,
Yeah.
so I ended up pivoting. But I remember clear as day, like one of the first things that came up was PhD in leadership studies at the University of San Diego, and I clicked on it. I was like, I just was interested. This was last summer,
Okay.
so the summer before my fifth year. Um, I looked into it. I was like, oh, that'd kind of be cool. I kind of had this internal, like, okay, like something clicked inside,
Yeah.
but I didn't put too much into it at the time, right? Because at this point, I still had another year of eligibility for golf. I was very involved with student athlete leadership at my school. The
Mhm.
podcast was really just kind of starting. So there was a whole bunch of stuff going on in my life. And the application for the PhD wasn't until January.
Okay.
So I was like, all right, I talked to my mom briefly about it in the hot tub. And I was like, hey, this is kind of cool. Like, I may apply for this down the road. She was like, awesome. Like, absolutely go for it.
Yeah.
But I didn't think about it then for 3 months. Um, After my fall season with golf, fall competes in both the fall and the spring. Um, I really still wasn't thinking about the PhD, but God kind of planted it back on my spirit and was like, okay, let's start to think about this. I was blessed enough to be able to be in a position where I graduated same areas with my um, undergrad and my MBA degree in five
Okay.
years.
Wow.
And because I was at the same school, a lot of my credits transferred over. So the MBA program was typically a 2-year deal, but
Yeah.
because I did business undergrad, I got a third of the program waived for my grad school. So I was able to complete it in 4 quarters.
That's crazy.
So it was a total God moment where only one class was like, I was waiting on one class to be able to fit it in a year.
Yeah.
And the class randomly switched from like a Saturday morning to a Wednesday night class. Like, it was totally God,
And you're
right?
like, "I can
Totally,
do this now. My
totally,
schedule will
yes,
allow it."
totally. So I was meeting with my academic advisor, the same person who I came to when I came back to school after the previous semester. She's like, I think that's so cool. Like, let me see what we can do from our point of view to make sure that you would be able to get down there in the fall.
Yeah.
Um, I ended up applying then, um, right as we talked about, doctorate degree. I'm 22 years old. I don't really know if I was expecting to get in, but deep down, I kind of knew that that's where I was going to be.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, super blessed enough. I was actually, I mean, I was on the golf course by myself when I got the email that I had got accepted and admitted. Um, that I remember that moment clearly for sure.
Oh,
That was
I got
such a kind of
chills just
joyous.
then when you said that. That's a
Yeah,
big moment.
definitely. I mean, I was just chipping and putting around the green, listening to my faith music, Christian music. I mean, that's what I listen to. That's my jam.
Okay.
Um, but it was a huge relief. It was like, okay, I know what I'm going to do. I know where I'm going to go.
Yes.
Um, Turns out I'm the youngest person that they've ever admitted. Um, the school, it's the first school to have offered a PhD in leadership studies. So it
Wow.
goes back like 50 years. So it's pretty cool for me to be able to say that I'm the youngest person ever at the very first PhD in leadership studies
Yeah.
program. So that's something that I kind of take a little bit of pride in now.
Yeah,
But
sure.
it's not really me, right? It's kind of God through me.
Mhm.
So many things lined up for me where um, it's completely not in my hand. But now it's something that I'm totally passionate about, right? It's
Yeah.
where I'm going to study student athlete identity formation, leadership studies, kind of use my experiences and some of the experiences that I know other student athletes go through to try to make the best impact that I can on the student athlete experience. And I'm excited to see where God leads us.
Yes, well, that was gonna be my next question. As the human form that we're in, what do you anticipate doing with this once you are complete with your doctorate? What would be
Yeah,
your ideal, I should say?
I definitely see myself staying in athletics. I'm not sure if whether it be college athletics. I hope so. I love college athletics. Um, I'll be working in the athletic department at USD, which
Mhm.
will be a great experience. Um, but I would love to, whether it be an athletic director down the road, whether it be some type of professional coach for athletic administrators, um, really advocating for the holistic student athlete experience, right?
Right,
Helping student athletes prioritize mental health. Absolutely. That's a
yeah.
huge part of our experience. But really, the most foundational part of our experience as student athletes is to set us up for life after athletics.
Yes.
And that's something that often gets overlooked.
Right.
Um, right. And I kind of look at it, I graduated, my business degree was in finance. So I look at it a little bit of an investment point of view, right? Where
Okay.
100% of student athletes come in with a goal to play professionally, right? Everyone, if they had the opportunity to play professionally, pretty much everyone would play, right? It's all
Right.
of our dreams, it's all of our goals. But Only 2% of student athletes get to do that,
Mhm.
right? So you're betting everything that you've worked on for your entire life, right? To play professionally, to be the best athlete that you can be. Only 2% of people do that,
You're right.
right? If you were an investor, you
You
wouldn't
wouldn't
put your
bank on
money
those
into a
numbers.
2 per correct. You wouldn't put your money into a 2% company,
Yeah.
right? But not only does that then apply to the student athlete experience, right? It's not just money, it's our life that we're
Yeah.
talking about, right? It's what we actually do. So
Yeah.
obviously that becomes so much more important, and helping student athletes find ways to transition out of athletics healthier in a
Mhm.
way that they can use their experiences to kind of leverage themselves as valuable in terms of a job, because a lot of student athletes miss out on summer internships and those type of things.
Yeah,
um,
for sure.
how can we leverage our experience as an NCAA Division One, Division Two, Division Three, whatever it may be, student athlete as just as valuable as summer internships or
Mhm.
actual work experience, whatever that may be.
Right.
Those are things that I'm interested in. Those are things that I'm super passionate about. But interested to see kind of the impact that hopefully I'll be able to make.
I love it. And it's basically in a nutshell, you are more than your sport, you
Yes,
know? You're a
that's something
human.
that that's something that I actually wear on my wrist all the time. I have a wristband more than an athlete,
Oh,
and it's
great.
something that is actually the same semester that I went through my mental health journey, my experience.
Mhm.
I came back and I was at a point where I was very involved with SAC and very involved with our student athlete leadership, where we were able to kind of come together and we gave these wristbands out to our entire student athlete body at our
Yeah.
kind of end of year award ceremony, right? And we talked about mental health and we help student athletes realize that they're just more than an athlete,
Mhm.
right? So much of our time is spent in our sport, in our performance, in competing, but there are so many other aspects of our life that are obviously just as important, but maybe
Right.
even more important for our overall well-being.
Right.
And it's a daily reminder, right? I look down on my wrist and I see more than an athlete, and then paying into platform from our podcast, and it helps me keep going for sure.
Oh, I love it. And I love to and kind of go back to some of the things that you were saying about the goals that you have for yourself moving forward in terms of what you hope to contribute to student athletes as they transition out of their sport. And I think a really valuable piece, and I'll go back to one thing that you said earlier, like at you as like a first year or second year, you get those talks at the beginning of the year that mental health is important, then this is what we need to do. And you're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, great. That's awesome information. But how do you get those athletes to really buy into that and know in those early years? Like getting them to develop that muscle, if you will, and understand that it's just like muscle memory in a golf swing or in the weight room. It's
Totally.
simply another muscle. So there is the stigma behind it is that it really feeds into what it is that you're doing because it is part of the whole, the holistic athlete. And I think there's so much value in that piece. And if you can get them to understand that earlier, then at the end of the day, when you're going, we're transitioning out of our sport, you are not your sport. You are a human being, not a human doing. Then
Mm,
you can then take all of those parallels that your sport will give you for the rest of your life and really apply them and look at them from a much different perspective. And it doesn't have to be so hard to learn, and you're
yes.
growing so much deeper, and you can grow deeper in your faith too, and that connection and everything that goes with it. So, yeah.
100%. And I think it really, how we can improve that, how we can teach it earlier, it really boils down to culture in athletic departments.
Yeah.
And when we, right, culture is a byproduct of priorities. And when we prioritize just well being, right,
Yeah.
doesn't even have to be mental health. We just prioritize well being, wholeness, this idea of like self awareness, all the above. That's when student athletes will buy in, right?
Yeah.
Our words just can't be hollow, right? It's really
Yeah.
easy for people just to stand up there and give a presentation about mental health and go bullet point, bullet point, bullet point. And there's not, that's the biggest turnoff that you could possibly have as a
Right.
student athlete sitting in those bleachers because you're like, you're just reading from a screen, right? I
Yeah.
mean, I could go up there and give this presentation right now and it would have the same effect.
Yeah.
But when we're actually vulnerable, and this is where storytelling comes into play,
Mhm.
and become personable, kind of share how mental health is important to us, why
Mhm.
mental health is important on a personal level,
Yeah.
and then give experiences that other people can relate to.
Right.
Kind of that's when you open up their horizons. That's when you broaden our perspectives. That's how we kind of build a culture in prioritizing just well-being. And it doesn't, like as we said, it doesn't have to be mental health, right?
Mhm.
Mental
Could be
health
anything.
is, it's kind of being used as a little bit of an umbrella term, which
Mhm.
it kind of has to be at times. But right, let's get to the point, right? It's just well-being. We want people to be their best self,
Yeah, absolutely.
and when we prioritize that, when we build a culture around that, if we're our best self, we're going to compete to our best level, right?
Yeah.
And let's make sure that we keep the main thing there in terms of well-being and not just competitive excellence.
Yeah. And sharing your why through the storytelling, that creates connection through our authenticity. It just really
Yes.
does. And the relatability and being able to connect with people on a deeper level that they need, that they can really buy into and go, okay, I resonate with that. That clicks with me. All right. I know that it's not a big deal for me to ask for help if I need X, Y, or Z. And the stigma is dropped just a little bit. Yeah. Uh,
100%.
yeah. What has been your biggest blessing through this whole process?
My biggest blessing has been the people that I've been able to meet. Um, the people are what make everything worth it, right? At the end of the day, um, obviously our journeys are personal and everything we go through is unique to ourselves, but we are all more similar than we really know.
Yeah.
And some of the friendships that you'll definitely be able to be a testament to this, right? But the friendships that you're able to make through having these conversations, right? I mean, I haven't met probably half the people who I've had on my podcast
Right.
in over a year, but there were like people I can just pick up the phone and talk to right now and just have a full on conversation with, and like we're friends, like,
Right.
and our friendship is built on this connection, this authenticity, this vulnerability. So not only the people in my life have been the biggest blessing, but the types of relationships and what those relationships are built on, that has been such a huge blessing. And it's added so much fulfillment to my life
Mm, mhm.
where nothing is really fake in my life, right? None of
Oh,
the relationships are really fake. Everything is really kind of genuine, authentic. I'm able to be my best self with all the people in my life.
yeah.
And that has been huge for me.
Yeah. I feel like I'm speaking to like a 52-year-old right here. Like, I say that in the best possible way because I just think that's a testament to the fact that you have really lived your story and really gone to the point of your pain.
Yeah. And
You know,
that's
and I
kind
think
of,
like you talked about, there was a piece that I saw advertised on Instagram, and I'm going to have to read it here. What will you do with your pain?
yeah,
That was a question that you posed. And like if someone not listening to this heard that just out of the blue, they could be like, what do you mean? What would I do with my pain? I would throw it out the window. Like, I don't want to have this pain, but the pain is something that creates opportunities for us to grow and for us to understand deeper needs and deeper perspectives. And at 22 years old, man, like you're doing great work. Because you've done your work.
thank you.
There you go.
Thank you. Yeah. And I think, um, if anything, like it's really just a testament to how much work I do on myself personally.
Mhm.
Right. And that's the type of stuff that just doesn't get seen, but
Yeah.
it comes off in the way that we talk. It comes off in how we're able to build these conversations and everything along those lines. But the pain is something like, I firmly believe our pain is what propels us in
Mhm.
life, right? And it's how we it's how we share our story. It's how we become who we become, right? But pain, it's going to happen, right? You're going to have a time where you're going to hit rock bottom, where
Yeah.
you're going to not feel your best, when you're going to question why you're doing what you're doing and everything along those lines. Like that time is going to happen. It's going to be certain. It's probably going to happen multiple times in your life, right? It's not
Yes.
just going to happen once. But we shouldn't spend our time kind of being anxious about when that time is going to happen,
Mhm.
but more so focus on, okay, when it does, how am I going to come out of it? What
Right.
am I going to allow? What good is going to come out of this? How am I going to carry myself to this next level
Mhm.
and help the most amount of people possible through
Yeah.
it? And that's something that I really try to live out every single day.
Yeah, it's very selfless of you. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a very selfless deal, and I also know that too, in that same, Instagram, uh, passage that I was reading, you were talking about, like, I may look like I have it all together. I'm a leader in my community, and I'm an advocate and all these things, but the stuff that's underneath that you don't always see, that you don't always know, that's what we're talking about, is being real about that and getting real about that and being able to be transparent about all that so that you can share your pain with others to know that you can go through this. And I love too that you say it's going to happen multiple times for the rest of your life. And it's what you do with it that really, that will really create the next piece of your story, if you will.
Absolutely. And you just, right? Our stories are never over. They're always
Right.
continuing to go, they're always continuing to move forward. Um, and that's something that I've really been spending a lot of time on because as I have finished my time as a student athlete, it's really easy to confuse a long chapter with your whole story,
Oh,
right?
wow.
And
Yeah.
um, that's something like, okay, I'm starting to reinvent the wheel a little bit. I'm starting to write the first few pages of this next chapter that play into this whole bigger story.
Yeah.
And the bigger story is like my life, just in general, right? It's all of our lives. Um, but being okay with one chapter closing, that's been something that's been difficult by any means, right? And
Mm,
that's where change, right, obviously is inevitable.
mhm.
Um, but I do also think that you get to choose your change. You get to choose
I like that.
um, some things like, okay, obviously I'm not a student athlete anymore. Obviously, I'm not going to be competing in those type of tournaments, but I still get to choose if I want to change my competitiveness, if I want to change my mindset, if I want to change the person that I am. And to be honest, I don't really want to change that. Like, I
Yeah.
don't want to change some of the great things that I've been able to develop in my time at St. Mary's and in my time as a student athlete. If anything, I'm just going to use that as more of the foundation in
Mhm,
this
mhm.
next chapter, right? And build on that, not necessarily replace it.
Yeah, and take it into the things that you're gonna continue to share with others and the work that you're doing through your doctorate studies and everything that you're
100%.
gonna encounter. And within the athletic department there at San Diego. Yeah, it's gonna be beautiful. I love that. Choose your change. Choose
Yeah,
your change. It's
100%.
it's perfect, perfect. What are you doing now that you're not golfing and lifting and doing all the things that you have to do, that you had to do regimented every day?
Yeah, it's been different to say the least. It's been different. So, um, I have played 3 rounds in the last 2 months,
Okay.
which has it's the longest break I've ever taken, and
Yeah.
2 of those rounds have been this week alone.
Okay.
So I think I'm starting to turn the corner and get back to it a little bit more.
Yeah.
But honestly, I've just been starting to enjoy some of the aspects of my life that I wasn't able to give a lot of attention to
Mhm.
while competing and while being in that grind every single day.
Yeah.
So spending time with loved ones, spending time with friends, kind of building those relationships per se,
Mhm.
that's something that I've been doing a lot of. To be honest, it's kind of fresh because I had class through June,
Okay.
so I
Oh,
was
it's just
still
like
working.
yeah, like now.
Yeah, I was still working on my MBA program. I have one more little reflection paper to complete. We had our last class of the program was actually a travel abroad class. So I spent just under 2 weeks in Barcelona,
Oh,
which was
fun.
a lot of really fun. But right, it was probably the second or maybe the third time in the last 10 years that I haven't brought my golf clubs on a trip,
Wow.
right?
Gosh.
And I'm
Were
super
you did you
grateful to
feel
be.
lost?
It was different for sure. It was
Yeah.
different because
Yeah.
it's like, okay, I always fly Southwest because we get 2 bags and okay, I
Yeah.
got my suitcase and I got my golf clubs, right? And I just bring them
Yeah.
both through the airport.
Yeah.
Uh, but it was definitely weird for sure and not really playing and not really even thinking about it. I
Mm.
mean, that's kind of been a little bit refreshing, but the last 2 times that I've played, I've honestly played pretty well because I'm like, "Okay, I'm fresh." Like, I'm
Yeah.
out there and I'm just enjoying the opportunity to play and not gutted by this whole, like, "Okay, I wanna make sure that I play well," the
Yeah.
expectations of tournament golf, the competitiveness of it. I obviously love all that kinda stuff, but it adds up mentally,
Yeah.
and to be kind of free and to really enjoy all the aspects of my life now is something that I'm really sticking to now.
Oh, I think it's awesome, Jonathan. I'm so like to sound so cliche. I'm so proud of you. I'm
Thank
really
you.
proud of you. Like that I know that that takes a lot and it's something that you will continue that the layers will continue to unfold for you as you go through the next year or two and but I love too that you are so open to that God's guidance and
Mhm.
allowing that to really be a guide for you, a really a strong, powerful this is my direction and I'm going to allow it to unfold in the way that it's supposed to unfold without that expectation and separating is this really me or is this God? You know,
Mhm.
I think that's something that a lot of people 52-year-olds struggle with. You know? So
Absolutely.
yeah, so knowing that and honoring that piece and being able to even just question that is a big deal. Like that's a big deal. That's
Yeah.
true growth. So
It's
bravo
something
for
that thank you.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's something that I just prioritize, right? And,
Yeah.
um, right, as you kind of level up, your values level up as well, and that right, I used to value hard work and all that kind of stuff, which obviously you still have to do as well.
Yeah.
But now it's like, okay, I value alignment and making sure that everything in my life is working to be in alignment with the person that I want to be. And
Yeah.
I value vulnerability and I value discernment. And because of those things, I live a different life now. And it's
Yeah.
something where I feel more and more fulfilled and everything along those lines.
Choose your change.
100%.
Love it. Love it. All right. So I want to wrap up our talk today with some fun rapid fire questions to kind of show another side of your personality. I feel like we've learned so much about you, but I want to do some fun stuff if you're open to it.
Let's do it.
Okay. Rapid fire. And I will give you a disclaimer. I've said this numerous times. My rapid fire questions aren't really rapid fire. It's not like bam, 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 bam.
Yeah.
It's more like almost a 3-minute response and kind of conversation. So I probably need to come up with a different adage for rapid fire questions, but you get the gist. So,
It's all
yeah.
good.
All right. Question number 1. What is one subject that you would like to learn more about?
I'm going to say leadership, something
Okay.
that I'm actually planning on learning more about,
Yes.
but leadership.
But it inspires you and it's something that is a passion for you. So that makes sense.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Perfect. Oh, wow. That was quick rapid fire. Let's go. All right. Question number 2. Do you think you could win a game show? And if so, which one?
I do. Um, I think I could win anything that is like a physical competition. Maybe
Okay.
not maybe not like fighting or anything along those lines. Like I didn't mean it like that. But maybe one of those where it's like an obstacle course or something like that, where it's just
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of person versus person, that type of thing. I'll find a
Well,
way to win there.
well, I think you could do what is it? Um it was like the not America's Greatest Race, but you know what I'm talking about? Like the
Yes, I think so.
oh, there's another
It's
name
like
for it. And it's
maybe
not
like Ninja Warrior or something along those lines.
I could see you doing Ninja Warrior.
I don't know. I gotta spend more time in the gym for that first.
But I think too, like you could do like where you have to go from place to place, location to location, and there's logical things to figure out, there's physical things to figure out.
Hopefully.
Oh, like
I love
yeah,
that.
okay, we're gonna watch for you on that next America.
Okay.
I'm gonna figure out what it is, and I'll text you what it is because it's gonna
Yeah.
come to me later today. All right, question number 3. What object do you misplace or lose the most?
Oh, this is a funny question because the people who I lived with last year will know that it could be any of my phone, my wallet, or my keys.
Oh, like,
And
those are vital things.
oh yeah, oh yeah, it was like a daily occurrence. I would lose my phone like 5 times in the matter of a movie.
Oh, wow.
It would just disappear, and we'd have to pause the movie and find it. But
Oh
you
gosh.
know, I'd always find it. It was just more misplaced than lost.
Well, maybe it shows too that you're not, like, beholden to it. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah, for
Yeah,
sure. It's one of those things where a lot of times I'll actually like leave my phone in my room and I'll go and do something and just try to be fully present there. But
yeah.
um, things get misplaced often. Some of my roommates are like, "How do you keep losing that?" I'm like, "I don't know, man. If I knew, I would
I
tell
knew
you."
I'd do something different. Figure it
Exactly.
out. All right. I take that. I take that. All right. Question number 4. Are you more of a thinker or more of a doer? I think I know the answer to this one.
I'm more of a thinker.
Yeah.
I'm more of a thinker. I do think that I'm a pretty good doer, but everything that I do is well thought out
Yeah.
per se. And um, I love to. I don't want to say I love to think, but I know that it's just required, and that's what
Mhm.
one of the things that I do.
Um, I am also going to say on the flip side, as you're saying that, I'm thinking back to earlier in the conversation when you talked about being kind of a late bloomer to golf, if you will, and
Mhm.
how you had to outwork everybody. So to me, I think it might be kind of a little bit of a balance depending upon your subject matter.
Yeah, I do think it definitely is a balance. But right, it's not about just working hard, it's about working smartly
Smart.
hard
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah.
Where since I was so kind of mentally cued in, I learned the lessons faster.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to have that kind of mental um, disposition, per se. Like
Mhm.
you have to be able to understand what you're doing before you actually do it. That way, when
Mhm.
it goes well, you know what you did.
Right.
Or if it doesn't go well, you know why. And
Why?
then you're able to make those changes quicker. And then that's when the growth happens a lot faster. So I do think it is a beautiful balance between thinking and doing, but um, I'm definitely a little bit more of a thinker.
You're the thinker. Finance. Yeah. Think.
Yeah,
Yeah. I get it. I get it.
for sure.
All right. Last question, and I'll let you go. This is maybe a little bit deeper. What motivates you the most?
My faith. My
Mm,
faith definitely motivates me the most. Where we've talked about everything that I do is an act of service.
mhm.
And I hold myself to a really high standard where sometimes I let myself have it for things that other people might not necessarily see as that bad, but I know that I'm blessed to have a very high calling on my life. I
Yeah.
feel it, I believe it. And because of that, I'm also held to a higher standard. And it's something that um, I take a lot of respect with. Like I'm very grateful that God has allowed me this platform and this opportunity to make the impact that I am. So I think my faith motivates me a lot, and then a huge part of my why is my mom.
Oh,
Um, I'm definitely a mama's boy,
okay.
and my mom is definitely the closest person in my life for sure. So everything that I do is to honor her, to honor everything that she's done for me.
Oh, man, that's so sweet. And I'm sure she feels the same way about you.
Yeah,
I
we're
have a
super
feeling.
close.
Yeah, absolutely. Jonathan, stories by student athletes. Everybody, please, please, please follow this very, very, very important platform on Instagram and check out his podcast, fellow podcaster, Stories by Student Athletes. Let's
Yes.
go. Yes. Sharing really, really authentic, connected, relatable stories that share people's backgrounds, share all the things that they are willing to bring forward to help other people connect and just relate. It just for the goodness and the wellness, being the whole person on all levels. I love it.
100%.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Man,
much. Thank you for this opportunity. Really
oh,
appreciate it.
you are so welcome. Do you have plans for the rest of your day?
I'm going to go to the beach. I'm going to beach it. That's one of the things that I've been doing actually, starting to to work on my tan a little
Let's
bit.
go. So you don't have
Uh,
tan lines anymore. You won't have them anymore, right?
no, the golfer's tan was real. Oh my gosh, my sock tan line was disgusting for like 8 years, but now
Love
it's
it.
starting to level out. So go to the beach, and then my family's actually going to a Padres game tonight. So go enjoy some baseball.
Have so much fun. Have so much fun. So, so, so good talking to you. I want to follow up with you maybe months down the road and let's reconvene on our talk again because I feel like there's going to be a lot of more valuable information that you're going to be able to bring to us probably 6 months to a year down the road about your experiences and what you are studying and everything in between.
100% would absolutely love to. So really looking forward to it already.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Jonathan. Have a great day at the beach and go Padres.
Thank you. Yes,
Have a good one.
you too.